I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Hear you now. Yep. How about you? Can you hear me?
Gotcha. Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Excellent. All right, sir. How can I help you?
Okay, so initially I had a whole bunch of different questions and now I'm all over the place now. So um I I watched, I think it was a while ago, but I watched your video on how to price a long distance move. Now, um the local moves, we've kind of gotten a swing of that. Like we've been, getting some good traction with that. We actually have a long distance move that we are going to do an estimate for tomorrow. So um, let me just tell you how I kind of imagined it, and like obviously you can tell me what best practice is. So there's a few ways. So obviously I was kind of thinking of like truck and equipment fee. I was thinking of having like separate like line items for like moving labor at the load, and then like loading and unloading, and then something a separate line item for like the drive, obviously. So and like some other costs like tolls, obviously, like hotel, and things like that. Am I kind of on the right track with that? And also too, I think I saw somewhere, I don't know who it was. I think I saw somewhere where, like, for the pounds, because this is a six-bedroom home. So for the pounds, I think I saw someone say like $1.50 per pound or something of that sort. I could have misunderstood, but I think I saw that somewhere. What does that long distance pricing look like? Am I on the money or am I like missing some things?
Well, first of all, do you have a truck or are you renting trucks? What do you rent? What are you using?
We are going to we are still renting, but for long distance we were going to use Penske. Obviously because it's cheap, much cheaper than U-Haul, as far
Mhm.
as on long distance front. So we were gonna rent.
All right. And how many trucks were you planning on renting?
I didn't see it yet, but I'm it's probably for a six bedroom, it's probably looking like two 26 foots or maybe even
Minimum.
three, but minimum two, right?
Minimum.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
right,
depending on what you think, you're probably going to need two 26-foot trucks and probably a 15.
right. I was thinking that for sure.
Okay. Do you have three
Um,
drivers?
yes, licensed drivers and everything. Yes.
Okay. Well, there's the simple method, which is basically what you were talking about, is just basically figure out what all your expenses are, right? How far away is this job?
This is in So we're in Connecticut, obviously. They're moving from like 15 minutes away from where we kind of dispatch to Missouri.
Okay.
I think it was Raytown, Missouri. And this is also what I was gonna ask. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Mhm.
I I do not really want to send eight guys out to Missouri. I would like if they, I can, if I can kind of contact somebody in the Missouri area where they can have guys unload. I really just want to send the drivers out there and
Mhm.
not really eight guys. I'd rather like I wouldn't mind paying $200 to $300 a day for some good guys in Missouri.
Mhm.
But I would like guys there to unload. I'd much rather do it that way. And I feel
I,
like it'll be easier than just send eight guys out.
I agree. I agree. So, were you planning on the trucks? Were you planning on doing one-way rentals?
Uh, no, they probably were just gonna deadhead it back. Because they would still like so. We haven't priced much long distance jobs, so like I'm not sure what methods people go by. Like, I mean, yeah, we were playing on one way. I mean, no, I'm sorry, back and forth.
Okay. Um, I would consider at least dropping, if I were you, I'd consider doing one-way rental for one or at least two trucks.
Two might actually be that because yes, I never thought about that actually. Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
That would be my personal preference for if I were to do it. I would leave
Right,
if you're doing three trucks, I'd leave two trucks there and then just bring one back.
that makes a lot of
Um,
sense.
it's because then it just then people can switch driving. So if you want to just
Yes, yes.
straight through. Um, so that would save on motel rooms and stuff like that on the trip back.
Right.
Just something to think about.
Okay.
Or get a trailer like a car hauler and get a rented car, stick it on the trailer, and then all the trucks go down with the trailer, and you drop everything up, and they can drive the car back.
Mm. That's good too.
That's an idea, right? You get a car hauler for one of them, and you can get a mid-sized car, and it'll be a far more comfort. It'll be far comfortable in a car than in one of those doggone trucks,
I
right?
can imagine.
And
Okay.
then plus you don't have to worry about way stations or anything like that. Cops aren't going to screw with you. You can just go. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just something to consider. But anyway, as I was first stating, what you would want to do is figure out what your expenses are going to be, all of them, whether you're going to rent trucks, if you're going to do it one way, if you're going to bring them back, whatever you're going to do, motels, hotel, food, per diems, tolls, the whole works. Figure out all your expenses on the job, right? And that includes payroll. And I'll answer that question about getting people at the end. Payroll, everything like that. And then probably then what you would want to do is add like another 50% on top of that. 50 to 75% on top of that. So just to make the math easy, um, and you'll never charge this much in your life for this type of move. But let's just say it's $1,000 move,
Right,
right?
right,
If you go add 75%, then you're going to charge 1750 for that kind of thing. Does that
right.
make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Um,
That's one
yeah.
method. That's one method you can do, right? Um, the best method to do is charging by the pound, but then that requires you doing a full estimate using a cube sheet. And it
So I'm sorry to cut you off. So I myself am going to do the estimate tomorrow. We actually um have smart moving now, so that's what we've been using.
okay,
Um, so yeah, I was gonna go do the inventory. That's typically how we price estimate jobs. At least like we have a thing where we do 3 bedrooms and up. We go in, we do an on-site estimate.
best method.
So
That's the best policy right there.
right, right. So
Right.
I was gonna do the estimate tomorrow, and now does that kind of do you think that kind because just automatically in smart moving when I put and it doesn't even have an option for a 6 bedroom, but this is the highest option it has is 5 bedroom large, right? So it has it automatically estimated at about 26,000 pounds. Now
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine $26,000 would cover everything, like you know what I mean. So and I was just putting a few line items. I can imagine $26,000 will cover everything. So how do we go about that as far as let's say it was 26,000 pounds, the move. How do we go about that?
Well, if it is 26,000 pounds, and I could easily see a 6 bedroom house being 26,000 pounds.
Right.
Um, I although that if it's 26,000 pounds, you're looking at three 26-foot trucks. Um,
Right, right, right. Yeah.
um, 26, and if you're charging $1 a mile, that you're going to be losing a little bit of money because you got three trucks, which requires three gas bills, etc.
Right.
So you would have to probably charge a little bit more than a buck a mile, a buck a
Okay.
pound rather, right?
Okay.
Um, I mean, of course, you could figure out how much gas mileage you're going to get, which is like 68 miles per gallon. How much fuel charges are, on average for the trip, and then times that by three, kind of thing. Um, but I would assume 26,000 for that probably would be enough money to make money. Um, the van line companies, they would charge anywhere from a dollar to $1.75, depending on if they're doing packing or not.
Right.
Right. But you got to have a really super accurate quote for this to
Yes.
actually work.
Yes.
If you're gonna, because you're not doing a semi, one thing you might want to look into is seeing if you can get like getting a freight company or a freighter, or like somebody does a semi and who actually has a semi and renting their semi, right?
So funny enough, I'm sorry. My cousin has, I believe it's so. I'm not sure how the trucking portion side works, but she has a semi. She doesn't have the big like cart on the back, but she has whatever like the front of it essentially that drives it. Now do would in that case you rent like the actual
The
cart
trailer,
in that case? The
yeah,
trailer, yeah.
yeah, you could go to like Ryder and rent a trailer, a short-term rental for a trailer. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so
But then it would require a CDL, right?
whoever's driving that truck will definitely needs a CDL. But if your
Right,
friend has a truck, then they probably have a CDL.
right.
Um, and then you basically hire just a bunch of people to do the load of it, right?
Right,
Um, and then maybe have someone go with them, you know,
right,
and then just to make sure that you get all your materials and stuff back and oversee
right,
it
right,
and do the paperwork. Um, so then there's that method, and then to answer your question on the far end, your best option is to hire somebody to unload. Now, here's the thing: you could get really, really good people to unload, and there's a bunch of groups on Facebook right now that has these little Facebook groups that do labor, but they're going to want $200 to $300 per person.
right. I actually because I'm in the moving labor group and I see guys all the time going back and forth about saying this guy's not worth $300 a day. This guy, this. So for me, it's kind of hard to weed out who's the real deal and who's not, type of thing. So
Right. What I would do is I would go to Moving Helper or hire a helper and
hmm
just hire the best guys with the
right,
best ratings. And you could hire two or three crews,
right,
right? And they'll be good because all you really need somebody is to pick it up, take it in, and put it in a room. You
right.
don't
That's
need
it.
somebody
Yeah,
to do any packing or doing any kind of, and then
right,
and your guys can, obviously assist, but also keep an eye on them and make sure
right,
it's being done right and making sure you're getting all your materials.
right.
Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Have you ever heard of the method? I saw this on, I think, on Wade Cycle's podcast, and he asked somebody, and so the total, so here on Smart Moving, the round trip is 2,567.43 miles, and round trip 40 hours and 30 minutes. Now, have you ever heard of somebody just charging hourly for all of that time?
Yes, but that people who are doing hourly are one either know their numbers really, really well or they're scam artists.
Right. Because I don't see how you do hourly for a long distance move.
Well, yeah, because it's there's no way to keep track of your hours necessarily, and then they're guaranteed to milk it, right? But yes, I have heard of people doing that. But and the guys who do it and do it well and can price that accordingly, um, they know their numbers like down to a T, right?
Yeah.
Um, and you got to understand too, you guys got windshield time. So how long are they behind the windshield, and how long are they stopping for dinner? And then they're going to have to stop. There's going to at least be 2 nights of, probably at least one night where they have to pull over and sleep,
Oh
but
yeah,
even
that's
by
that's
law.
yeah. Right, yeah,
So
for sure. You can only be
uh,
on the road for 10 hours, right? By law, like in a truck.
14 hours if they're driving, 14 hours if they've done no physical labor.
Okay. All right. Um,
If
okay.
they've done physical labor, I think it's 12 hours. I
Hmm.
always I always did 10 hours for my when I was doing it. 10 hours of windshield time, right? You drive 10 hours, you stop, you pull over, you get some sleep. That's
That's
how
what
I
I was
personally
thinking
do it.
too.
Huh?
That, that's what I was thinking as well.
Right.
Yeah,
That way my
this is
guys aren't too tired, they're not exhausted, you know what I mean? Especially if you're doing in 3 trucks, you want to make sure you guys are, well rested, right?
right,
You don't want any reason for them to get in an accident or anything like that, right?
right.
Um, I got this real itch. Sorry about that. Um,
No problem.
but yeah, so there's that. So the van line companies, they would charge by the pound, right? And that would include mileage and so on and so forth. If you do that, you're going to probably want to charge a little bit more, like from a dollar to $1.25 per pound,
Mm.
only because you got 3 trucks with 3 drivers with 3 gas charges and so on and so forth, right?
So
Um, so go ahead.
yeah, the gas thing, I was a bit confused on that. So automatically when you go to long distance fuel surcharge and smart moving, it says rate 12% of transportation. How do you price for gas? Even on local moves, like what does pricing for gas look like? Because we normally, and I don't like this, but to make an estimate, kind of, I normally just think because we're in U-Hauls and we're in Penske's regularly,
Mhm.
and I know kind of the figures it takes to fill the truck up. So that's
Mhm.
normally how I price gas. But I feel like there is obviously, especially when there's salespeople, we're gonna start working with salespeople. There has to be a more sensible way to price for gas. So what does it look like to price for gas, and what does 12% of transportation look like? So what does that mean?
Well, gas should just be included in for local jobs. Gas should just be included inside the bill, right?
Hmm.
Some people charge a truck fee, like $100 for a truck fee or something like that. I'm not a big fan of that, but that's my personal opinion. I think
Mm-hmm.
if you're going to charge, you just charge by the hour from the time you leave your office to the time you come back. It's called port to port, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
gas and all the expenses and everything that's included in your hourly fee, right?
Okay.
Uh, so I mean, how many local jobs are you doing for a truck, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, and so if you're doing if you're doing about 15 or more jobs a month, you should really be considering buying your own vehicle or at least saving up to buy your own truck.
That's what we're doing now. Yeah, because it gets pricey renting trucks, most definitely.
You're once you've done if you're doing 15 truck if you're doing 15 jobs and you're running a truck 15 times, you're actually losing money, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing less than that, it's you could still you're not losing money, but you're not making money either.
Right.
So you really need to, right. There's one guy that put out a thing, Winston or whatever his name is, saying about
Once.
11 times, which is
Yeah.
which is right around where I would have told somebody to do it. So
Like 11 times as it like you're doing 11 jobs and
11 jobs that require 11 local jobs that require a truck. He recommends you start buying a truck at that point.
is that the move up guy?
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Okay, all right.
I say
So
15. He says 11. I think we're both in the ballpark, give or take. So
we
it's all it's all
yeah,
it's all good.
we're definitely at that point. I think
Right.
we probably had about 15 in all not in August, I'm sorry. We probably had about 12 in August. So yeah, we're at that point. Yeah, we planned on getting a truck next month, and that's also what I wanted to ask. But I just so as far as this long distance thing, just so I can get everything out the way. So all of our expenses, obviously, and um, all of our expenses, the 3 trucks, hotels. Um, does it make sense to do moving labor, like if you're loading, and then obviously we account for the guys that are unloading, when we hire those guys, does it make sense to have because our guys who will be doing the loading and that obviously we pay them hourly.
Mhm,
We don't pay them the $200 $300 a day. We pay them hourly,
mhm.
and the other guys are going to pay that. So What so does it make sense? This is how I'm sorry if I'm all over the place because I'm really my brain is spinning. I'm trying to make sense of this.
Mhm.
Does it make sense, let's say, obviously, moving labor, which is what we will be paying our guys, and then paying the other guys. Um, we charge our hourly rate, and that's included in the pricing, but we charge our hourly rate for how long we estimate the job will take. And then we charge another um hourly rate, or maybe put that together for how long the unload will take, and then obviously the hotels, the gas, the truck, um, and then the hourly rates plus the 50%. Can we charge like that as well?
For a long distance like this, you can. I mean, you do realize you're going your competition is a van line company
Yeah,
or another independent that has a semi, right?
yeah,
They can do just one truck, so they don't have all the expenses of three trucks.
right.
So you got to watch what you're doing. If I were going to do this and I were in your position, right, and I've
Yes,
been in your position, what I would do is I would do for my personally, just for myself, I would do a cube sheet estimate so I know exactly what the poundage is, what the estimated poundage is, right? But what I would do is I would figure out all my expenses for all my trucks, all my labor, hotels, per diems, tolls, all that, figure out what that's going to be, right? Depending on if I'm going to rent trucks and drop them off or bring them back, etc. Right. So I would have all that figured out, right? I might actually have two different scenarios all figured out. And then I would just probably, 50% to 100%, either double it or, charge 50% or double my charge. Hypothetically, let's
mm,
say all my expenses to do this move is let's say it's 10 grand, hypothetically. That's my expenses, right? What I would probably charge probably 20,000 just so that I got the job. You see what I'm saying? But
yeah,
that extra 10 grand is going to be profit because all my expenses have been figured in. So that 10,000 would cover my personal payroll plus all my marketing and sales and office logistic expenses. Does that make
right.
sense?
That makes sense. Um,
That's what I would
what
do.
kind?
That's how I would do it. Seeing as this is just there until you've got to the point where you know that, hey, this is what it's going to cost, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Until you know
yeah.
your numbers down to the T, this is how I would do it until you know your numbers.
Okay. And what kind of deposit would you collect for that?
I always collected 30% cash deposit on the day of the move. So the day we show up, they give me 30% cash deposit. The remaining gets paid at the end, and they can use credit card, cashier's check, or cash. Right?
Okay. Um,
I wouldn't.
okay.
And then to book the job, I would just require $100 deposit to book the job.
Okay.
That
Okay, that
way,
makes sense.
if they decide they cancel or they find another mover, you got $100 because all my deposits, my $100 deposits were non-refundable.
Okay, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So $100 deposit, 30%, because if I just would hope our expenses. I mean, 30%.
Well, see, the reason why you want to get 30% upfront cash is so that you can give your guys cash, that 30% cash, so that they can buy gas. They can get a hotel. And you know what I mean?
Right.
Unless you have a credit card and you trust them with your credit card that has enough money for that, then that's how I would do it. If you trust them with a credit card, and you've got enough money for that, all the expenses and fuel and all that, do it that way.
Yeah, I want. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. Your way makes a lot more sense because I was just thinking about having some upfront money to be able to just service a move like this. Shoot, this is very tricky. All right, I'm gonna figure all of that out. Um, I had something else.
Most people, I've never, especially if your prices are reasonable, right? I've never had a problem with somebody giving me 30% cash deposit up front.
I mean, this is a big job. I'd like to hope that they were okay with that. This is not.
Yeah, well, and you just explained this is what we're doing. The reason why I want cash is I want my guys to. This is this we're going to use that for the expenses of getting there and coming back, and then they
Right.
go, oh, okay, that makes sense. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
It wouldn't necessarily
Um.
cover the truck rental or anything, but it does cover the guys, all the fuel, the hotel, motels, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
all that stuff, getting there and then coming back, and that usually makes sense to people.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we don't have a problem covering a truck rental. Um.
Right.
So, all right. I
And
got
you
a few
don't have
minutes
to
to
do
left.
30%. Maybe do 15 or 20. You figure it out for yourself. I did 30.
I'm gonna figure it out based on the expenses that we have. I'm gonna put all that together today. All right. So I have a few more questions. What is a good truck route app? I think that seems to be the most important,
What ask
second
the
most important
question?
one. A good truck route app.
Um Back in the day, I didn't use apps because they didn't really have apps for this back in the day. Um
Mm-hmm.
we had Garmin's at the time, and the Garmin's were specifically set up for uh trucks, right? So the trucks, the Garmin's that we had, they were expensive Garmin's that already were set up for trucks. So the app was included with the in the Garmin. Nowadays, I don't know. I don't know a good app, but I'm sure you could do a Google search or whatever, and you know find one.
Okay.
I know
I'll do.
Google. I do know Google has an app for truckers. So like their Google Maps does have a Google Maps truck type app.
Oh, I
I
didn't
don't
know
know if
that.
it
Do they
costs
account for
anyone.
tolls as well?
Well, yeah, Google Maps counts for tolls if you do the settings right.
And they show you like pricing, how much the tolls are cost wherever you're going.
Yeah, pretty. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let me see. I think I
And
can think of one more question.
one thing I got to tell you, make sure your guys keep receipts of everything, everything,
So
fuel,
yeah, so
food, tolls, everything.
one of the guys is going just to make sure things go smooth. And this is actually our first long distance move. Is my brother Daniel, who's also my partner. So he's going to be on top of everything and making sure. I He's probably the only person I trust to kind of get on the road, and this is kind of how
Now,
we
one
feel
thing you
like
can
we.
do is, the tolls, those Easy Pass. You can go get
Yes,
Easy
someone
Pass
told me that as
things
well.
and stick them inside the trucks. That way, they don't have to. They just go right through and it gets scanned, right?
Yeah, actually, yeah, we're gonna do that. Someone actually told me that the other day.
Yeah,
Um,
it's already prepaid. You just go. They don't have to worry about a thing.
got you. Okay, that makes sense. All right, and this is the last question. This is something that we've been trying to figure out, and we've had trouble
Mhm.
figuring out. How many? So, number one, first question, two-part question. Number one,
Mhm.
um, did you or do you recommend? I personally don't like doing it, but do you like recommend taking? Do you recommend? Sorry, taking inventory on every single move? Because to be honest, for a one bedroom move, we know how long it's going to take, standard furniture and everything. We don't take inventories on one bedroom moves. It doesn't. I think it's a waste of time for us.
I never
Um,
did for local moves or anything small. Your big moves, especially your more executive homes, you better take inventory.
Most definitely, most
Um,
definitely.
but for your small 2 bedrooms and below, it's a waste of time.
Right. That's what I thought. We typically take it on three bedrooms or more.
Mhm.
We'll take inventory. But normally lower than that, we don't. So okay, so with that being said, this I don't know if this answers a second question. How many guys, and has kind of been a tricky thing for us. How many people do you suggest per pound do you add? So just for an example, when we do inventory, let's just say like we've had done inventory on smaller jobs, but let's just say the job is at 6,000 pounds.
Mhm.
6,000 pounds, we typically add a third guy. Um, how would you say for every 3,000 pounds you add an extra mover? How do you say to attack that?
Well, 6,000 pounds is one of those things that it's right there on the cusp where two guys can do it,
Right,
or and three is better, right?
right.
So that gives you a good selling point. Say, hey, look, two guys can do it. This is how it's going to probably take them about 4 to 6 hours to do this job. We could do it in 4 to 6 hours, or I could add an extra guy for this amount of cost, and we could get it done, within, 3 to 5 hours. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Or whatever it is. So I'm always in favor, especially if it's there's a long walk or stairs or elevators. If it's a second story apartment or bigger, I'm in favor of three guys, right? If it's a
If
ground
it's a, you
floor,
said second story apartment or bigger?
yeah, I'm the more guys the better in my opinion.
Right. Okay. Okay.
I mean, it just gets it done faster. Um, and you can, and the guys aren't rushed, they're not gassing out. So it's better for the guys, it's better for everything. So I always try to go for a three-man whenever I can.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Um, all right. I guess that's it for now. I'm gonna put this particular move, the long distance move, is what I really want to kind of get your insight on, and I really wanted to tackle. So I'm glad you were able to answer those questions for me. All right, so I feel a little better now. I was very very nervous before this call, but I feel a little better now. I'm gonna look at all the expenses and I'm gonna take your advice. I didn't see, so when I scheduled this call, I didn't see. I know before you were charging $50 for half an hour and $100 for an hour. When I tried to schedule the call, I didn't see a place for payment. What are how are you working with that these days?
The first call is usually I give for free. If you do any subsequent calls, then we start charging. That's probably going to change back.
Okay.
But right now that's what I'm doing.
Okay. All right. So I'm probably going to book another call probably sometime next week or within a few days. And maybe I book it with in a few days and after this estimate and kind of tell you how it goes and we could discuss it from there.
Oh, I'd love to hear that. That would be great learning. So that would be awesome. Yes.
Okay, all right. I appreciate it as always. Thank you very much, and we'll speak again.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.